Hello, welcome to Loremaster's Lair. I'm your Loremaster, here for something long overdue, and I do mean long. Last year a book covering the Mwagni Expanse was released, and now it's time for me to do my own examination of the region, synthesizing the lore for all those here. However, the Mahogany Expanse is a series of city-states, making breaking it down an overall difficulty. However, we have done it before, back when we examined Varisia and its various city-states. And like Varisia, there is no way this is happening in one part. So we have a split episode before us today. Hope you all are in it for the long haul because we are traversing the entire expanse. Let's start with some really brief history of the region. I could go deeper, but I do not want to add a third video to this, do I? And it's not like I will not be going in some depth with the individual histories of the cities we go through. Before Earthfall, the Mwagni Expanse was the first home to the Serpent Folk Kingdoms, and then the Cyclopean Kingdom of Galgon. As the Age of Darkness hit, and many were struggling to find their way, two notable individuals came about. Near the beginning awoke Damari Digi, an arboreal who traveled the area, and eventually settled near a dangerous area known as the Nemesis Well, establishing the city of Usubu with some mortals he sheltered. The Edda, near the end of the age, was Old Man Jatambe and his 10 magical warriors, who took down many a threat which thrived in darkness, and were able to bring magic back to the world, and eventually brought about the rise of the city of Natambu as home to the Mwagni Academy. As also around these times, elves explored south, and dwarves came up from the ground, both establishing homes for their people in the jungles. As the Age of Destiny dawned, the famed Shoi Empire took to the sky, only to be brought back down by the Tarrasque. Many other great cities rose, only to find their ends through violence and the ravages of time, like Holy Zatremba, and Rastel. It was also around here that the city of Mzali was first established by the descendants of the god Kohor, and was eventually taken over by the Council of Mwanisa. The Age of Enthronement breathed tragedy, however, as the first guerrilla king was crowned and Engazon's city of Usoru was established. But it was also here when demon-hunting orcs first arrived on the continent and built their cities. Expansions into the region near the endpoint of this era would lead to the foundation of the pirate haven Blood Cove and the colony of Sagava, now known as Vidrian. I already did a video on the latter, so we will not be going into that area today. But either way, the various city-states and the people of the Mwagni have grown and declined on their travels to today, where their fates are as open as any other nations. Let's start out strong with our first side tangent, the part of the show where all knowledge shall be remembered. This time, we are starting off with the legend of Old Man Jatambe, a man described as old in his earliest adventures. He is famed for being the one to bring magic back to the world after the events of Earthfall and the Age of Darkness. Then, he assembled 10 apprentices, the 10 magical warriors, and helped to end the crisis across the Mwagni. He took down the wicked city of Erd, battled against the king of biting ants, fought against Agud Bindi, one of the children of Rovagog, and trapped it so it would never reform. And with all this, he also established the first libraries of the Mwagni Academy, laying the groundwork for his apprentices to create the academy that grew until today. And with it he also crafted various items, including his book, The Wisdoms of Jatambe, containing endless amount of knowledge he collected over his lifetime. He would eventually disappear from history, but every now and then there are tales of an old man with a talking staff appearing in a marketplace or cafe somewhere, leaving open the question of what the old man has been up to recently. There are several people who call the region their home, many of which I have covered in the past. We spoke on the four ethnicities known collectively to foreigners as Mwagni before, as well as the Sogavans and the Vidrik. But we have a few more humans on the docket. We have Caldero, whose legends hint at them being descendants of Arcadians who crossed the ocean. They are traders first and foremost, and judge most things in terms of money, but this is because they associate money with growing and protecting one's family, and financial status as the ability to provide. From their home in Senghor, they run one of the greatest sea trade empires in the Inner Sea region. We have Omotos, the last descendants of the Shori, and scavengers of the fallen cities. They are known for the high percentage of them who are sorcerers. We have the Leogeni, descendants of those of the country of Leogen, who still keep their eyes on the stars to gain insight. And Yamasins, the descendants of those of Yamasa, who themselves are masters of agriculture. And ending humans, we have the Elephant People, nameless descendants of the various tribes of Mwagni who broke off from the original people, who now live beside their sacred elephants in peace. For other people of the Expanse, I believe we have mentioned the Mwagni elves and their three subgroups, as well as the Mbeke and Tulu dwarfs, the Songo halflings, and the Matangi orcs. Man, I'm glad I did those ancestry videos. It definitely saves time. In addition, we have the timid Gripply and cannibalistic, but actually decently neighborly gnolls, as well as rarer ancestries like the naughty spider people, the Aeon shards known as Kanrasu, the ever-fearful Goloma, and the secret-loving Shisk. We're going through the countries today, not the ancestries. Any deep dives on these would need their own video. And the creatures unique to the region include the ultimate hunters known as Baloko, the savage Charuka, the Kava, which I talked of in my Vidrian video, the cursed Mumbaika, and the godless and lost Sabasons. Again, some get more fleshed out later, others need their own video if anything. So getting into the actual layout of the Mwagni, we are going to go place by place. We have three different kinds of locations to go through: major towns, geographic areas, and the living places of ancestries. The locations of ancestries are probably going to be the shortest because they were notes in ancestry bios, and at most only have a few pages of information to them. Outside of course, information on the ancestries that I'm not actually going to cover today. With Vidrian already covered in its own video, let's start there and go inland with the Songo. The Songo are nomadic people, with the only permanent residence being Laike Se, a town where the infirm and those who otherwise cannot travel live. Each caravan of Songos take their turn staying there to care for their extended families, as well as to tend to the fields used to fill caravans when they eventually pass by on their travels. Just outside of Laike Se is the Astada De Bombay, which outsiders mistake as part of the town. In actuality, it is a game field used for the Songos' pastime of stick fighting, and training for such. The only true blooming of civilization in this area is during sports season. One more recent addition is the Bar Season, built neighbor to Vidrian. With the country's independence, the Songos established as trade posts to try to make good with the new nation, selling what excess and crafts came from Lakese. So far, this has proven successful, and the trade post has also began to be a starting point for Vidrian merchants to travel into the jungle with their own wares. And in the same general area, we have the Bondu Hills. We covered some of the locations around here when we were looking at Vidrian, but there is more outside the borders. Going in, there is a general warning it is easy to get lost here. The rains and seemingly shallow valleys have ways of throwing people off course. The most famed, of course, being the Trail of Bloody Tears. The fact ghouls and umasi roam the not gnolls, ghouls. The fact ghouls and umasi roam the area is also a red flag to many to stay away. Though many do exchange corpses to these groups, who call themselves the Cowl Kingdom, in exchange for mining rights to places like Mount Nakiu, the largest mountain in the area. Another group commonly found in the area are nomadic wood giants who call themselves Tambazin, who are hostile to outsiders but always willing to welcome peaceful guests. There are also many mysterious ruins in this area. From the strange room-upon-room towers of Orzikel to the burned remains of Darkreach, there are many mysteries left still unsolved in this region, though none more so than an Azanti statue pointing to some location the inscription calls Zorkai, this mysterious city never having been found. And now we reach the neighbor of Vidrian, the city of Mzali. Long ago, this town was founded by those who were descendants of the deity Koal. However, empowered councilmen, the Counts of Mwagni overthrew the monarchy and took power for themselves. But their borrowed power faded over the centuries, and they ran out around the time Cheliax was conquering the region. Using an old prophecy, they found a mummy which was not destroyed in the ancestors' purge, and proclaimed it would protect them. And ironically, it did. With Cheliax at the gates, the mummy awoke, incinerating the foreigners and retaking control of the city. Since then, Walkenna has ruled with an iron fist, protecting his people with threats of punishments and calls of xenophobia and racism. Now, while trade is good and they have no worries of outside invaders, the citizens have to work hard to prove their devotion, lest they be burned by the power of the sun. That said, there are some from outside the city who come to kneel before him, themselves wishing foreigners to be gone. But at the same time, there are groups willing to walk in the shadows in hopes of bringing a new dawn to their nation. They would be the Bright Lions, our second side tangent. This group was partially formed by Sahar, someone who grew as an orphan in the streets of Mzali, and watched her people suffer under the rule of Walkenna. She spent her time as a mercenary and also studied at the Mwagni. Magambia. I'm going to keep mixing up Mwagni and Magambia, I'm sorry. When she learned of the old sun gods, Kohar, Luhal, and Telhar. She converted, and beginning with her mercenary band, turned many to her faith, and are now working to infiltrate Mzali and undermine the tyrant's rule. Now the Bright Lions work to spread words of the old sun gods, undermine ceremonies to the child god, and bring a way to retake the city from the undead ruler's clutches. Now taking the walking tour of the city, the center of town is the Temple of the Deathless Child, the center of Walkenna's worship, and where his advisors surround him. Rocking north we have Wayo's garment shops, a clothing store where a strange soft melody spreads out at night, with many knowing better than to try to find out what its actual sources. Further north, the Sunlight Inn, an inn with rooms that look up to the sky during the day, or the stars at night. East, we have the Temple of the Eight Suns, a tomb which bears the names of former rulers, as well as people it refers to as the Eight Sons, though with one of them having apparently been defeated. Just south, we have the Mzali Archive, where all the history of Mzali and of Volcana himself is kept. Now directly east from the center, we find ourselves at the Well of the Moon, a dried well which goes into the temples of the old forgotten sun gods. Direct south is the mixed marketplace, where outsiders, with permission of course, may sell their wares or buy those of the city. Finally, the entire western side of town is a necropolis where many mummies, including Walken himself, were entombed, and where many secrets might still hide. Mzali stands on the edge of the Screaming Jungle, the smaller of the two jungles of the region. Unlike the jungle the region is named for, the Screaming Jungle has small, hooked trees, constant fog, terrible footing, and the continuous sound of animals just out of sight, which continues to place psychological pressure on any who would dare go into these woods. This of course makes it one of the least explored regions, but there are certain landmarks those who made it back home definitely remember. For example, the Kora River runs all the way out to Vidrian and Mzali, being one of the main ways to transport trade goods into the region. To the southeast, Mount Doranma towers, being home to creatures not seen anywhere else, like Iruxi centaurs known as Zothanians, and ring gorillas known as the Hiris. Another famed tower is that of the Bide, torrent mounds which reach hundreds of feet tall. Close to the northern edge is the ruins of the demonic worshipping town of Rastel, seat of the ancient Devouring Kingdom. And of course, who knows where? This is also the location of the legendary village of Elkolobha, the home of the Velocos who hunt all intelligent creatures who find themselves lost in their jungle. But there is more than one legendary hidden city within the Screaming Jungle, and there are more pleasant options. Presenting the golden city of Usibu. Originally founded with the help of the Abol Demari Diji, this city is paradise on earth. However, the people of the city are all well aware the simplest change could easily ruin the paradise, and have spent centuries to commit subterfuge and weave legends to keep their city hidden. And when an outsider does find their city, or one of their own wishes to explore the world, they have options. If it is someone trustworthy, the guardians of the city have a charm which keeps them from telling their secret. For the untrustworthy, they have a drug which will cause them to only remember their time in the city vaguely, as if it were just a pleasant dream. And for the most part, the city has had little problem. Though problems there are. For example, side tangent number 3, the Lands of Gulandari, which means, hello all, quick trip here for the laughing salesman. How you all doing today? This mirror, along with others, was created by Nex for his draw against Geb. It was designed for the purpose of trapping an outsider and allowing the user to tap into its powers to use as their own. This mirror, for example, contains a Bala demon by the name of Gulandari. This is all fine and good, but this artifact could cause problems if in the wrong hands. Until recently, it was kept in Usibu for safekeeping. But then Pathfinders did what Pathfinders do, and in an attempt to escape the cities with their memories attacked, one threw themselves and the lens down the Nemesis Well, breaking the trust of the people of Usibu, while also causing the well to start acting up. Not even getting into the question of where the fool and his mirror ended up. Usibu is divided into 12 districts, referred to as gardens. Some residential, some place of learning, and some actual gardens. Of course, they all circle around the trouble of the city, the Nemesis Well, the pit glowing turquoise, which the city's guardian, Digi, has made it his mission to forever watch, lest some unknowable disaster emerge from the bottomless depths. Or, jump into them. On the west side of the city is Ijayara, the Conservatory of Ever, one of the few buildings not open to the public. It serves as both house for all plant life, so a sample will always exist regardless of any disaster like Earthfall happening again, as well as a meeting place for the leaders of Usibu, referred to as the Chiyaru. To the north is Iwajui Iryandra, the Bazaar of Favors, where one trades their time and energy with others in this city which does not have any need for food or money. And further north is Volvera, the Return, where the medicine to lock away people's memories are carefully crafted. But that is as far inland as we're going today. So let's return to the coast to finish off that area. North of Vidrian, we already have mentioned the Kava lands, but that was mostly for the Kava. This land is, like the Screaming Jungle, a place rarely explored, though it is for the fact that the Kava's protectiveness makes it so that not many can get that deep before passing on. The only known location inland is the Kideri Ruins, a place where legend says the Mumbaika were cursed into their catfolk-like form that they currently take. Oh, and legends of buried pirate treasures, but come on. No proof of such and too many dead bodies lurking. But on the tip of the landmass, which forms the Kava lands, is a city still much alive and well, the city of Senghor. Established over 2,000 years ago, the city is one of the most prominent trade cities in the Mwagni's west, if not all of the inner sea region. With the combination of specialized ships and neutrality in most things, the Calderu have made this city home as well as established their mercantile reputation. The city runs like clockwork, with people keeping to general schedules to ensure the luck of their day. There are many prominent businesses which influence the city-state as much as any king or council does. Here, everything is pragmatic, everything is mercantile, and the entire city holds a powerful position that few will be able to shake it from, regardless of how much pirates try. Let's take a walk clockwise, starting with the northern opening to the sea. Here stands the Shanghai Lighthouse, which functions as both a lighthouse and a watchtower, it being the tallest building in the city. Just south of that is the Ocean and Dock Market, a small pier which serves as a market for daily goods. Across from it is the Port's Nest, one of the inns by the main docks, and it is known for both a place where captains recruit for their crews and for a place that collects the drinks from across the Mwagni, so you always have a taste of home. To the east, almost at the edge of town, stands Usai's Bizarre Bazaar, a shop where you can find components made from almost every creature in the Mwagni Expanse. To the south, Timhei's Trade Company is one you ask for if you want to move cargo. And outside the southern gates is the headquarters of the Asamo Haulers, who move goods throughout the town. The Grand Market, lifeblood of the city, stands in the center of town, while south, the more traditional Efilda Plaza is where history is sold. Makelo's Experts is where you can find rare items on the market, right by the Rainbow Market, which trades in all things woven. Two notable drinking locations are the Gnarly Hyena, a place for pirates hide, and the Mix and Mingle, where they serve mixed potions for random fun. There's also Burash's Lost and Found, where you can find and buy one man's trash. And also there's the notice board in the center of town, where information about the town is hung. Outside the town, we have the amphitheater, a drainage ditch which has great acoustics at low tide, and also the remains of the lost city of Bo Ali, raised by the first calderas who settled in the region, for some reason that has been lost to time. Inland from the Kava lands, we have the Mugumbo Plains, sitting between Kava, the Teller Uplands, and the Mwagni Jungle. The main attraction here is Lake Turva, a body of water concealing many drowned cities, but also a dormant volcano. Or mostly dormant, because it time to time releases poisonous gas which chokes entire parts of the region. An example of the dead man's breath's aftermath being the city of Blood Salt. One of the most famous cities below its depths is Egregzia, another city of Golgon, and another place where the pirates of Shackle supposedly hid their treasures. Outside of dead cities, there is one small stopover of Kidutu, just outside the range of the poisonous death. Between the two peninsulas, which make up the Carve Lands and the Tello Uplands, we have the city of Blood Cove. Known for its red waters, the city was originally founded by pirates to give them a legitimate place to trade their illegitimate goods. And all official government is controlled behind the scenes by shady figures who all want as much profit for themselves as possible. As one of the few legitimate governments on the Fever Sea, this would be the place you want to come if you want to buy anything, no matter how illegal it is in other places. Though you might want to keep in mind you will be shopping shoulder to shoulder with members of the Apsis Consortium and the Free Captains. Coming in from the Fever Sea, the first big landmark you will find is the Free Trade Square. Opened all hours of the day, goods from all over the Mwagni can be found here, stolen or not. Further in is Mwagni Expanse, a trade house directly connected to the puppet ruler of the city. Across the river to the southeast, one will find the allegedly haunted Witchlight Inn, the town's largest tavern, the Pirate's Hook. And now back across, following the northern curve, you will end up at the docks, where one will eventually find Palua's Herpetarium, the primary house of reptiles, in maybe anywhere. Further is the seat of government, the Chancellery of the Fever Sea, and right at the edge of town is the local Apsis Consortium Lodge. Can't really run a shitty business without them making their appearance, can you? Next, going north, we have Nether Peninsula, the Turva Uplands. Half of it home to dwarfs, specifically Mambeke, and lizardfolk, specifically the Telwa Lords. The other half of this mountainous peninsula belongs to the Shackles, something the Mabeke have never forgotten or forgiven. Many cloud dragons live here, originally coming up from the gate to the planet of winds known as the Stormwell. Even now, this location is where old cloud dragons come to die. Another place you want to consider avoiding is the Valley of Ghosts, a foggy valley where one claims to encounter the faces and voices of the departed in the mist. Few can make it out on their own. And on the edge of the uplands, one can find the second largest Mbeke city, Kalereng, the port they use for trade. And as for the largest, that is Cloudspire. This is the Mbeke Sky Citadel, their cultural and governmental center for their people since the quest for the sky ended. Well, just a pale mountain on the outside, it is hollowed inside as a giant pit plunges deep down into eventually going into the pit known as the Wellsprings, a bottomless pool said to reach all the way to the Darklands. The Mbeke funeral rites have one object of the dead sunken into this pit to return to the dwarven first homelands. Moving higher, one finds Nakobe's Hall, the former royal hall now sealed, said to have been cursed by a tyrant king. Across from that is the Assembly of Kings, the debate chamber, where all the rulers of the Mbeke have gathered for discussions and debates under the death masks of their ancestors. At about mid-level is the Hall of Bells, which continuously rings with the sound of metalwork, because dwarves. At the top of the pit is the areas, where the dwarven allies of the Cloud Dragons have rooms to rest their heads. And directly across from that is the Celestial Fellowship, the training grounds for Mbeke Sky Sages and Battle Mages. And crowning the pit, hanging right above its center, is the Dragon Bell, a giant bell which can be heard from several miles away, used by the Mbeke for timekeeping. We're just about done for the day, but next step will take us into the Mwagni Jungle. Before we leave off, let's look at one more side tangent, the book known as The Wisdom of Jatambe, another favorite of mine from the book Arcane Anthologies. As I mentioned before, the wizard Jatambe brought magic back to the world and fought many evils with his 10 magic warriors. In addition to all that, he also worked to spread knowledge across the world. Therefore, he took his spellbooks and notes and synthesized them together to create the Wisdom of Jatambe, a spellbook with which you pass on all his wisdom. These books and copies of them are originally prepared by taking the skins of a dangerous beast and curing it. So this makes it kind of rare, but yet many apprentices of the Magambia work to produce copies as part of their studies. Also, it is common to keep lower level copies of these books even after you move on to greater magics, as you never know when you might have to spread your knowledge to another in need of instruction. And that is part 1. But we still have an entire jungle to explore in part 2. I look forward to seeing all of you there next time.